The Prime Minister, of course, is telling us that we're wrong as Canadians, and he is right. The government-funded news network is bringing on some more experts today to talk about why what Trudeau is doing is great for Canada and how the carbon tax is awesome. It makes sense. However, I will give them some credit. Later on in the video, this is the first time I think I've personally seen this, they brought on a carbon tax critic, a actual Canadian speaking on behalf of Canadian farmers. This is something that I'd like to see. I was very surprised, so I got to give them some credit on this. I've been very mean to these guys lately, so I want to give them their props where props is due. Let's dive into today's video, listen to the experts, have Trudeau yell at us, and then get to hear the other side.
The Prime Minister fired back at the premiers and the federal Conservatives who are demanding he pause the increase to the federal carbon price. That price went up today from $65 to $80 per ton, and that means many Canadians will pay more to gas up their cars and to heat their homes. Justin Trudeau defended the carbon tax, saying it fights climate change and actually puts money back in the pockets of Canadians through a rebate. And he reminded premiers and provinces that the provinces themselves have the choice to set up their own carbon pricing program.
All those premiers that are busy complaining about the price on pollution, but not putting forward a concrete alternative that they think would be better for their communities, are just playing politics.
Yeah, certainly he's not playing politics by choosing this for all of us provinces. Again, a lot of them have brought alternatives forward. Some of the alternatives are canceling the carbon tax because that is an alternative. But in their mind, the only alternative is tax. So come up with your own tax. Come up with your own stuff, guys. You charge it at the level because that's the only way. And it's, you know, she said they keep using the same rhetoric and they don't want you to ask questions on it. And that rhetoric is at the pump, heating your home, at the pump, heating your home, as if those are the only costs coming to Canadians, as if, you know, the commercial carbon tax that's getting charged, passed on to us, causing inflation to increase is not also something that we should be worried about. But we're making money. It's infinite money, rebate.
Every province has the opportunity to put forward its own plan as long as they are fighting climate change to the same level that we're asking all other Canadians to do. That's what a federal backstop is.
There it is.
But we're not seeing detailed plans from the premiers on this. They'd much rather try to complain about it and make political hay out of this.
For further details on the new tax hike and the rebates, the CBC's Marianne Demain explains how all of this impacts you.
Well, Abby, it is important to note that while this applies to the entire country, there are some exceptions, particularly when it comes to British Columbia, as well as the Northwest Territories that have their own charge for carbon, and then Quebec has its own cap and trade system. But for everyone else, you will notice an impact when it comes to your bottom line, that impact on your wallet, because there very much is one, especially if you're going to the pumps. Let's break it down, starting with gasoline. Gasoline, the liter of gas is up 3.3 cents a liter.
That's up from the already existing carbon tax, which we've been paying for years. So they keep acting as if like this increase is the only amount that we're paying. We've already been paying thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for the last few years in this carbon tax.
That means it will cost you about $1.65 more to fill up a 50-liter tank of gas. Diesel up slightly higher. The price per liter for that is up about 4 cents. Now, when we're talking about propane, the price per liter is up just over 2 cents, which means it costs close to 4.
Diesel also is generally used in trucks, which do our shipping, which have larger tanks, and it's even more expensive for them. Just saying.
30 cents more to fill a standard barbecue propane tank. And for natural gas, the carbon price is up just under 3 cents to 15.3 cents a cubic meter. Maybe hard to wrap your head around exactly what that means, but to break that down, for the average Canadian household, that means about $65 more a year to pay for things like heating. Now, there has been a lot of controversy leading up to today's carbon tax increase, as well as a lot of pushback, not only from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, but also from several premiers all across Canada who have been calling on Ottawa to put a pause on today's planned increase. We know.
And Canadians who are actively protesting right now. They never bring up the Canadians. They always just, oh, here's the game of politics we're playing. There's Canadians, hundreds, thousands of them protesting all across Canada, and millions who are also angry.
Know that the premiers have Saskatchewan, as well as Alberta, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, they spoke out at a House of Commons committee hearing on carbon pricing, not only calling for this pause, but also citing concerns about the rising cost of living. We also know that the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador wrote a letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau asking for, again, not only a pause today, but also for a meeting to discuss alternatives. Now, in response to this pushback, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has challenged premiers who don't like the carbon tax to come up with their own credible alternative. And we know at this point that the Premier of Manitoba has said he will take up the Prime Minister on that challenge. Now, leading up to April 1st today, of course, this planned increase taking effect today, we have been speaking to a lot of economists, many who say that this plan works. Here's more on that.
A lot of economists that we've talked to talked about in other videos who let's just say they're economists, government-funded speakers.
Well, carbon price is the lowest cost approach to reduce emissions. It gives each person and each business this flexibility to choose the best way to reduce their carbon footprint without imposing particular technology choices. So
the lowest cost approach would be no tax at all. So it's not the lowest cost, but anyways.
in other words, the carbon price works because when fossil fuels cost more, people use less of them. This is basic economics.
Nope. The companies just keep up their shipping, they keep up their deliveries, they keep paying for packages, prices just increase over time, it's passed on to the consumer, we lose money.
And that is essentially what the carbon tax is for, to try to burn less fossil fuels and to move Canadians towards greener alternatives. Abby.
Marianne, the federal government is touting these rebates, but what can most Canadians expect here? What more can you tell us about these rebates?
Yes, because part of the conversation leading up to today was how much this would cost Canadians, but there's also a rebate, which means money is coming back to Canadians. And it all is based on your household situation, not your household income, based on how many people are actually living in your home. So let's look at the breakdown, starting first with what this would mean if you are a single adult. You can see the layout of all of the provinces on your screen. Alberta, $225. Saskatchewan, for instance, $188. Going further east, Prince Edward Island, $110. And Newfoundland and Labrador, $149. Now, looking at what this would be for a quarterly payment for a family of four, because these are quarterly payments. Alberta, $450, for instance. Saskatchewan, $376. And then looking over there, Nova Scotia, $206. And again, this would all be based on your family.
So using their numbers, I'm a single person in Ontario, supposed to be getting my 140 quarterly payment. But they've already done the math, and it could be up to $11 a week, basically, in taxes. That's $11 a week in carbon tax on my gas alone, not including anything else, no associated costs, just gas from my vehicle. I basically am losing money just from the vehicle, not including prices that are going up. I'm a real estate agent in London, Ontario. Reach out to me in the link below if you have any questions about London, or you want to get in touch with anybody in my national real estate team who I can get you handpicked for your market. But the point is, yeah, I drive for work, but not that much that, I'm going to be going through multiple tanks of gas. When people commute to the office every single day, an hour away, because that's the only job they can find, they're going to be spending even more than I would as a real estate agent. And it's like, you're seeing these numbers and they're like, no, it's these people are making money. It's positive. 80% of Canadians, they keep using this same talking piece. It's so frustrating.
Family makeup, how many people are in there? And for Atlantic provinces, 1/3 of the households there use heating oil, which is exempt from the carbon tax. Here's more from one economist about this rebate.
About 80% of Canadians are going to get back more than they pay. Now, I lead a relatively low carbon lifestyle.
What a surprise. University professor, economist, think tank, modeling, uses a low carbon lifestyle, single guy, probably childless, probably a liberal, and, good thing is he lives a low carbon lifestyle, so he's going to be making money.
Does that mean I only have one car? I don't have gas-powered toys like motorcycles or skidoos or ATVs. I only live in one house. I don't have a cottage or a second place someplace else. If you're a fairly wealthy Canadian who have all of those extra trappings, no, you're not better off. In fact, you're given an incentive through the carbon tax to reduce your carbon footprint.
Hilarious clip. Yeah, don't have any fun, guys. Don't even enjoy a cottage. Don't get a motorcycle, a hobby car, nothing that you think you could possibly enjoy. This single guy drives one car, which is hilarious too, because you can have two cars if you're a single guy. It doesn't matter how many cars you're driving, you're doing the same trips in the individual cars. But luckily, the university professor is telling us it's a good thing.
Now, as for when these payments will come, again, they are quarterly payments. The first one, Abby, is expected sometime around April 15th.
Protesters in Alberta are staging multiple rallies across the province in protest of the federal carbon tax.
It's making life difficult for a lot of people. I watch seniors struggling now, and the future generations of Canada are really going to suffer. So it needs to stop.
RVs and vehicles with Canadian.
Yep, our seniors are struggling right now. They're on fixed incomes. The pension plans are not increasing. In fact, we might be losing, and what's going on with that? But the point is, like, seniors, these are major costs that working young Canadians are struggling with. Now you have seniors who are struggling on pensions, can't keep up with their costs, and these rates of increase for them are crazy.
Canadian flags could be seen lined up beside major roads. Officials expect there will be delays for drivers near Cochrane and Edmonton. The protesters oppose the carbon tax and blame it for the high cost of living. More rallies are planned in the coming days across various parts of the country. So how do farmers view this tax and how will it impact them? To discuss this, we're going to be joined now by Jeff Harrison in Quinte West, Ontario. He's the chair of Grain Farmers of Ontario. Mr. Harrison, thank you very much for making the time to speak to CBC News. Can you talk to us about how all of this impacts your livelihood? Because, you know, all morning we've been talking about broad numbers and averages, but how does all of this impact you and your family?
Well, thank you very much for having me. The carbon tax has been an issue in front of farmers, specifically grain farmers here in Ontario, for 6 years now. And it's been an escalating tax that has just driven up our cost of productions. It's been a mental burden on farmers. The federal government has just not listened to farmers' needs, and it is making us globally uncompetitive. This is a cost of production that is money that could be spent in other areas of our farm much more wisely and help drive grain farmers and the economy.
Okay, so cost of production is up for them. You know, they're struggling with it. I grew up in a farming community, so I love farmers. I respect the heck out of them. The only reason we have food, the only reason we function as a society is farmers. And now we're punishing their production, which is also even worse for Canada because we become a less productive economy because we are, like he said, we are starting to become so expensive that we're not globally competitive. There's products getting shipped in from all across the world cheaper than Canadian products can be made because of all these taxes and costs that get added on. This is a farmer who's dealing with this every day. But luckily, the economists are telling us there's no increases in price. But this farmer who's actually dealing with it is showing us this is a problem he's dealing with. And we should be listening to farmers. Like, it's crazy that the single childless freaks of university professors, like, those are the ones who get to set policy. But this farmer who's feeding cities doesn't get to have a voice in this. Nuts.
What is the biggest concern that you and your colleagues have when it comes to this carbon tax and now the hike that goes into effect today?
Well, once again, grain farmers in this country are not only looked upon to feed Canadians and fill the shelves with good quality food, but we're also looked to send grain around the world and do the work that other nations can't do and help countries. And this makes us, once again, globally uncompetitive. These are costs that our competitors don't have. These are costs that our farmers could use that money that is otherwise spent on a carbon tax to do further environmental initiatives, more than what farmers already do. And once again, we see farmer depression levels at all-time highs. Mental health issues front and center, farmer suicides. This is one more burden of risk on farmers that is out of their control.
So that's unbelievably important to hear because not only are they getting punished with the carbon tax, which they then have to pass on to Canadians, which I've spoken with farmers and they're ticked about having to increase prices. They're upset that they have to do it. But these aren't the only regulations they're dealing with. And keep in mind, farmers feed us. Without farmers, we die. It's societal collapse. Like, this is one of the most foundational, important jobs in Canada. It's already tough and hard to find farmers because it's been a relatively low. I want farmers to make millions because they should be rewarded for all their work. But the point is, they can't make that when they're constantly being beat down by government all the time and they're blamed for stuff that they should not be. And they're the most, productive class when it comes to providing for Canada. And it's just so frustrating to know that these people are dealing with mental health issues that Trudeau could care less about. Or maybe he could not care less about, more accurately, because it's like he seems like he doesn't care at all.
The federal government, I should say, repeatedly says, Mr. Harrison, that the carbon tax actually puts money back into people's pockets through this rebate. Does that rebate help you and other farmers in any way?
The rebate that they speak of does exist, but it provides a return to farmers less than 15% of what farmers actually pay in carbon tax. So that when they speak of playing political games and wordsmithing, that is nothing more than a game. The rebate is a joke. It provides nowhere close to what farmers are impacted by this carbon tax.
And we know when the Prime Minister talks about climate change, you and other farmers obviously are absolutely concerned about climate change because it impacts your livelihood. If you could talk to the Prime Minister, what would you say to him?
There is no one more concerned about the environment than farmers. We have been stewards of the land for generations. Farmers do a job that very few choose to do, and it is a noble profession, producing food for our fellow citizens and people around the world. And we take the concerns of the environment more serious than anyone. We work and live in the environment, and it is a means of our livelihood. It has been a means of livelihood for our family farms, and we certainly hope that it is that way for generations to come. So as far as the concerns of climate change, farmers are front and center, and we're doing all we can. I mean, there is no one more willing to do good things for the environment than farmers, provided we can be economically viable to do so. We have to be in business to continue to do the good things that we have already been doing. Economic sustainability is vital for farmers to be environmentally sustainable. So it is paramount.
Agreed, 100%. Farmers need to be rewarded for their work, and farming is a noble profession that we need to respect more. And to know that they're getting punished by Justin Trudeau's carbon tax, which again, we're calling it Justin Trudeau's carbon tax because it's exclusively being pushed by him and the people who answer to him, all his economists, all that stuff. So appreciate Jeff here for actually telling us what's going on and the real impacts versus these university professors and their modeling. And again, guys, I am a real estate agent in London, Ontario. Thank you so much for watching. If you do want to reach out to me or reach out to any of my real estate network across Canada, the link is below, and have a great rest of your day.